So in 1963, a player named George Izham, well, if you pronounce it quickly, it's like Izham, my name. In 1963, George Izham and the PFA of England challenged football's retain and transfer system. This is the system of draconian law designed in English football in the 1960s that prevents any players to be transferred to any other teams, although the contract has expired. And this is, again, this is an unreasonable restraint of trade. And during this period, Izham wanted to move from Newcastle to Arsenal. Well, personally, I don't agree with that. And he was out of contract, but he refused to sign a new contract with Newcastle. But again, he was retained in the club. He couldn't move from Newcastle to Arsenal because of the system. And he took the matter to the court in 1964, and Lord Wilberforce declared retain and transfer system as an unreasonable restraint of trade, and therefore not binding on Izham. And he referred the administrators as reasonable men whose attitude to their players was as much paternal as proprietary. And he said that retain and transfer system was a setup in an industry where employers have succeeded in establishing a monolithic front all over the world. And basically, the case favors the player. And the retain and transfer system was then abolished, and it shapes the environment of players in Europe, in England, and all over the world. And it gives hope for the players that with proper organization, with proper representation, we can make changes in our employment. And it also, this is one of the biggest victory in world players football. In 1995, Bosman ruling. John Mark Bosman, the most important sports law decision of all time, which has revolutionized football. And this case challenged football's training compensation and transfer system and the imposition of quotas on foreign players with the European leagues. Well, this player, John Mark Bosman, wanted to transfer from a club in Belgium, RFC Liège, to a club in France, in Dunkirk, and he was not allowed to do that because of the system which disallowed any player to transfer without a transfer fee, although the contract has ended. And this case was taken to the European Court of Justice in favor of the player, and this case was based on Article 39 of Treaty establishing a European Committee, where freedom of movement for workers shall be secured within the community, and such freedom shall entail abolition of any discrimination based on nationality. Well, it has a big effect on world of football, including in Malaysia, where this case was the reason why FIFPro and FIFA had a settlement agreement in 2001, 6 years after the Bosman ruling, where there must be a training compensation paid when player turns 20 whenever his contract has expired. And he is also free to sign a new contract with another club in the last 6 months of his current contract. And any employment-related dispute of an international dimension can be referred to a local labour court or to the FIFA DRC, or Dispute Resolution Chamber. These are the victories of the players' movement. And also the FIFA Dispute Resolution Chamber is also one of the victory, or one of the results of fruits of all the dedication and hard work of the players' association, that where clubs cannot exercise unilateral options and clubs cannot terminate the contracts of players because of injury, but it is still happening in Malaysia, where clubs cannot terminate a player's contract simply because it's not good enough, and the player cannot terminate the contract and move freely, can terminate the contract and move freely with compensation if it's not paid on time. So if you're not paid on time, you can move to other clubs. This is the kind of protection because of the victory and because of the work of the Players Association and the players. Well, in Malaysia, we have PFAM, where I am honored to be the CEO. We have more than 400 members with PFAM. We have dedicated members of staff, and as of December 2015, as of today, we have 104 cases involving contract termination, unpaid salary since 2014. It's just a matter of 1 year. And we have done survey on the current practice in Malaysia. This is very important to note that 29 players from all the 104 players that we have surveyed, 29 players were terminated with invalid reasons. And termination can be based on injury, because of the coach, simply because the coach wanted another player. They make up certain reasons for them to be terminated, the contract, and simply because of no reason. Yeah? They have been terminated. This is the situation in Malaysia right now. And 31 to 12 months, and 73 players were having problems with their contract. Most of the players in Malaysia have double contract, which means that they have a contract with them, with the club, and another contract between them and also the club. They have double contract between them. And they are having problem with some of the players are not given the copy of the contract. It's a matter of education also. And 83 players received delayed, and 32 players were victims of violent acts, either by the fans, by the club management, or the coach. And 29 players were bullied and harassed, again by the management or the coach. 22 players were victims of racism. It's still happening. This is real. This is the survey conducted by PFAM, by spectators, fellow players, management, and coach. 57 players were forced to train in a separate group, and 83 players playing in various risk conditions, extreme heat, had to play during Ramadan, just to have 1 hour after buka puasa, and then they have to play football. Inadequate facilities in clubs. Some of them have to play at the field, worse than I play every day. Inadequate access to medical assistance. Yeah? 50 players have been sanctioned for various offences, and maybe most importantly, 21 players were not given fair hearing and denied representation. When we wanted to represent the players, we were denied. And these are the challenges, okay? With all the data and the specifics, these are the challenges. Players' awareness and education of the rights are lacking in Malaysian football. And this is the job of PFAM, to continuously work on educating the players to make them better understand about the profession. And also the attitudes of clubs and associations, where they place low priority on players' rights. Yeah? Which again is quite sad to see. And we have an unfair contract, not meeting FIFA minimum requirement standard. We have a normal contract in Malaysian football, where players have to sign a very unbalanced contract. We place more obligations on the players and not the clubs. So if the clubs are not paying the salary of the players, well, nothing can happen to them. But if players are doing this, behaving this way, they can be punished. And also we have performance-based clauses, where if a player is not performing well, it's very subjective what is not performing and what is performing. Any players can be terminated just because they are not performing well. And not performing well can be as subjective as not scoring a goal, maybe get injured in the 15 minutes. It's very subjective. It's just they get creative when we talk about trying to terminate the player's contract. And lastly, inefficient dispute resolution mechanism because of the absence of a national dispute resolution chamber. We're very, very lucky to have a very cooperative and partnership with FAM, where this issue has been addressed. And we are in the process of revamping or making it a better dispute resolution mechanism in the near future. And we are really thankful for that. These are the examples or the kind of legal victories that we had. With last year, we had 12 pluralist players who were unpaid for 6 months, and we had the honor to represent and fight for them, and we get to fight and get back all 6 months of their salary. And we were all over the news. And also some of the cases where players are not being paid up from 2 months to 3 months, and we had to do negotiations and mediations with the club to settle on an agreement with the players. And it's not just happening to local players, it happens also to foreign players. And this is a big alert for Malaysian football. Are we a sustainable industry to attract professionals from all over the world to play football here if we still have problems like this? And this is something that we are committed to work on with FAM. And we have players not being paid for 1 year, we have 6 months not being paid, and it is very hard for them to live in a country foreign to them and being treated this way. And also player transfer dispute, where we had a problem with a player who signed 2 contracts with 2 different teams in one transfer window. So again, this is a fault of the player for not being aware of the contract. And again, we represent this player to educate him. Well, in conclusion, these rights that we have as players is not just right for ourselves. These rights is the right that can transform sports and society. And players associations at heart, we are human rights organizations, and we inspired by athletes who have gone before and left marks on their profession, their sport and society. And individuals willing to sacrifice a career for a principle and transform sport that we love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Izham. Thank you, Izham. Every time I hear, this is not the first time I